We are live. Welcome to the Wisdom to Wealth version with myself, Brittany Hammond, interviewing my mom, Whitney Hammond. And this is a very special episode. So for those of you who are new to the Wallet to Wealth or Wisdom to Wealth, this is where we talk about how we can take control of our finance so that our finance does not control us. I hope I got that slogan right.
You did.
So in this episode, I'm going to ask my mom, Whitney Hammond, who is the CEO of Sovereign Wealth Management and the founder of Wallet to Wealth. I'm going to ask her a few deep and personal questions around her relationship to money and how that propelled her forward. And finally, how this whole mission of Wallet to Wealth came together. So welcome to the show, Whitney. Your show, it's not my show.
Thank you. And I just want to let everybody know that I'm going to be answering these questions right from the hip because I haven't been pre-formed of what I'm doing.
So if I'm looking down, it's just because I'm referencing the Facebook group. So Whitney, what were some of the beliefs that you acquired from your mom and your dad around money? What were some of the things that were said?
Okay. Well, so I'm 56 this year, born in 1964. So that's the generation that I come from. But my dad was born in 1923. So he was a lot older. So it was, and also he wasn't born in Canada. So there's some mindsets that come from, I picked up my dad's mindsets because he was born in Eastern Europe. And in 1923, where there was a lot of slaughtering and war going on, and without getting into those details, they've obviously lost every single thing that they own, and they fled to Canada. And when they got to Canada, it was the beginning of the 1929 Depression. And so I did not understand this until I was older, but I picked up all of my dad's scarcity beliefs, so he was very successful, and I grew up in a very big home, and everything looked all fancy dancy, but we had this very limiting belief, and then my mom, who was 16 years younger than him, had this strong independence, and so they were always button heads because he wanted her to be the get in the kitchen, and she wanted to do her thing. So I watched this whole dynamic, but I'm telling you, what it did was it absolutely drove me crazy. It drove me crazy to the point where I decided at the age of 2 that I was going to be making and managing so much money that I wasn't going to have to put up with any of this chaotic stuff. I didn't like the mindsets, but I didn't understand. Okay, so the whole time when I was growing up, I didn't understand, and I didn't understand until many, many years later that those mindsets were also locked in me. So even though I was very successful and still am, I still was coming from scarcity, and it was actually Priya Ali, who helped me with the abundant mindset. And it's very important. So we can talk about that in another question.
Yeah. And this is, for the listeners, this is really important because as we do this deep dive work, I always say this, my mom hears me say this, we're just making an audit of our life and the beliefs. So we're never coming from a place of blame. We're just looking objectively at this is what I learned. And that way we can take accountability for our lives right now. So this brings me into the next question is, how important is it to adapt to our own beliefs and not stay held to the limiting beliefs of other people, family, friends, society?
Yeah, so, okay, so I did have to make a change because I did have their limiting beliefs. And it was actually my accountant who said to me probably more than 15 years ago, and because he was getting, frustrated with me, and he said, what do you want to have when you're older? He said, when you're dying and your children around your bed, he said, do you want to, have them talk to you about, fantastic trips that you went on and things that you enjoyed together, or do you want to be talking about, estate planning? And I said, so I got that message. So I really had to do a mind shift. So for me, I was locked in such a place of scarcity that I didn't want to spend any money. And every time I did, it was this whole mental crazy thing. And I know other people have the opposite, where they just blow it left, right, and center. And then they're going crazy, going, oh my God, what happened? So it's the same thing. It's either you're too skinny or you're too fat. It's a problem either way. So people say you can't be too skinny, you can't be too rich. That's not true because it is a problem in its own. So I had to learn and adapt my own balance into my mind, and I did seek out help. I seeked out help through coaches, through different coaches, and I always highly recommend for people to find a coach, because you're able to identify these things that are strapping you and preventing you from just living in your in your zone of genius, to be held back from your zone of genius because you have a limiting belief from decades ago, but not being aware of it. So for me, I had to break out of that scarcity. And even though I'm very, very disciplined and responsible in what I do, I can let it go and have a good time, and allow myself to do the things, to enjoy the fruits that I've worked so hard for in my life.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. So something I always say is we share our story not for our glory, but to serve others. The kind of ancient history of storytelling, it's to share and to help people. So the next question is a little bit personal, but I think this can really shine light on people that might have struggled. So, Whitney, what is one of the significant money disasters that threw you off at one point in your life, and how did you overcome it?
Oh man. Okay, so this is not advice. This is just what happened to me. Um, what threw me for a loop was marriage, because we had two different mindsets. So getting married was, again, I was coming from scarcity, and I married somebody who was not coming from scarcity and was into blowing things left, right, and center. And that was a major disaster for me, major. If I am going to give any advice, this would be my advice, is to really, really be careful who you marry. And I'm not blaming. I'm just saying that be careful who you choose as a life partner, because you want to be able to have common goals. So whether they are, spiritual, religious, money and foundation, what you want to build together and what your comfort level is. So what my comfort level was that I wanted to really nest egg money, and I wanted to have a nest egg. It didn't have to be a big nest egg, but I needed to have a nest. I needed to have a home where I could, have children and raise those children. And I didn't want to be having this worry about where money was coming from. And that's exactly what happened, because I happened to marry somebody self-employed, and I was self-employed, and it was just this feast and famine disaster. And it doesn't have to be like that. And that's why I talk in other videos about money management for people that do have, the ups and the downs. So it is really important. The two things is to have that money mindset. So scarcity is not a good place to be coming from. Abundance is a good place to be coming from, but you also have to be careful that your abundance isn't about just blowing everything because it's going to show up in the next 5 minutes, because that's not necessarily how it works.
One thing you had said just before we had hit record, like one of the things that hold people back from being financially free is you said it was the confidence in yourself. And I know you talked about it at a very young age. You had made this decision, I'm going to be financially free. And then we end up attracting people, situations in our life that counter like what our conscious desire is. But what was the subconscious belief? That was something you said just before we hit record. What was the subconscious belief that sabotaged you?
From the beginning, well, I felt like I was less than. I felt that because I was a woman, and I don't know if those messages were all coming internally from the family or if they were coming externally, but I really I carried that, and it was just such a big thing that I entered into a male dominated industry 25 years ago and decided that I was just going to kick everybody's butt because I was going to somehow heal. And again, that's coming from a limiting belief again of scarcity, feeling scarce as a woman, instead of not even looking at whether I was male or female. It doesn't really matter. Coming from my zone of genius, and I do live in my zone of genius, and I have for 25 years. Like, what I do for a living is actually what I was meant to be. And I do know, and I see people struggling because they want to find their niche. And I so understand that, because in the decade of my 20s, I was self-employed in another business, and I wasn't in my niche, so I didn't feel comfortable.
Oh, I was just raising my hand because
Oh, I thought you were like time. So
oh,
yeah, being in the niche, being in the niche is extremely important for our souls. Is to know that this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm coming from a place of serving. I'm serving, and those are the riches. Those are the big riches in life, is to be able to give.
yeah. I was really excited about doing this interview because over the past 15 episodes that you've done with Teresa, you both have talked a lot about the tactical, the practical parts of finance, but I wanted to give this opportunity to share your story so that people can connect with you and your why. So those of you watching, if you're watching this in the Wallet to Wealth group and you feel comfortable and this is a safe space, like, let us know in the comments. Share with us if you have experienced these things. Share with us the beliefs that came up. I mean, this is really how the collective healing can take place when we all participate. So to wrap this up, Whitney, Wallet to Wealth, how does this mission serve as a legacy to help women today?
Well, it's for super women to stand up and share their story. So because there was a time when I was in the women's shelter, and I vowed that I would give back, that I was going to get out and get started and just get everything all started over again. And I did, and I got super busy, and then realized that, hey, wait, I promised that I would help people, so that they could see that we don't all just come from a white picket fence. And also too, in my journey, like I said, I used different coaches over the years, who have helped me significantly. And one person who's local in Burlington, who I did mention before, is Priya Ali, who is fabulous in changing the vocabulary. And Priya helped me at different times in my life when I had such a mindset of scarcity that I didn't think that I could do what I was, where I was going. I was already going there, but my mind was holding me back. So it's just so important that we all help. And so I'm mentioning her, but there's other people that have helped me along the way, and they will continue to, because they're a lifeline. I can always pick up the phone and say, hey, I need an appointment, because anything that is given to me, I give back to others. So the biggest message that I want to give today is that mindset is the number one thing to work on. We struggle with that, and we really need to know that we can do really whatever we want to do, but we just have to put our mind to it and hang around with the winners, not the naysayers. Like when I was starting my business, I had everybody telling me that you can't this and you can't that. And those are the people that they're not healthy. And they could be family members, who knows, but hang around with people that will support you and love you and say, yes, you can do this, and I will connect you, and Susie will connect you, and Amy will connect you, and we'll all connect each other, because I watched that in the man's world. Like, these guys, like, how do they get the big positions? Because they all know each other, right? So something comes up and they're like, oh, hey, call Paul over there, we golf with him, or we whatever with him. And we need to do that. We need to not compete with each other. Women need to help each other and rise each other up, not compete, but to help. So I think it was Tony Harris Taylor says every woman needs one woman in front of us to be our mentor, and we all need one woman behind us so we can help pull them along. So I encourage everybody to do that, and that's what Wallet to Wealth is all about.
Yeah, and just to again bring this back full circle, um, obviously not putting words in your mouth, but knowing your mission and purpose. It was that feeling in the women's shelter where you felt like you didn't have options and you weren't financially empowered. And so again, it's not about this like money greed, and that's never come across, but it is about that freedom. And that's just such a huge part of this mission. So I wanted to wrap us up with um, a final pep talk for the woman who is listening and doesn't feel like she has control of her finance, maybe not holding the purse strings, or just doesn't feel empowered. Maybe she's struggling or feels trapped. What's that one piece of guidance that you would tell her to lift her up?
Okay, so if I could go back to me and talk to me back when I was in my mid-20s, I would tell myself to not be so full of pride and ask for help, because I did not ask for help. I did not go and tell my mom and my dad. I didn't tell my best friends. I didn't tell anybody. I basically lied to everybody and myself and said, oh, I'm okay. And I was so okay that I ended up in a women's shelter, and I was so trapped. I was financially trapped. I was emotionally trapped. I was physically trapped. I got trapped in this relationship, and I felt like I deserved it. I stayed there because I deserved it. And somewhere I heard about this Halton Women's Place, and I went there. And when I told them what was going on in my life, for the first time, I told the truth. They said, oh, no, this is not right. So my advice to somebody, if they're in a situation that dire, is to ask for help. Okay. If you don't want to ask a women's shelter, don't ask in this group. There's 800 of us women that are talking to each other. We're not selling stuff to each other. We're actually talking to each other. The other thing is, if it's not extreme like that, and you're feeling that you don't have control of where you want to go financially, what I would do then is I would recommend to go to a financial planning coach. So somebody who is not somebody at the bank, because they don't do this, but somebody who actually does this for a living, who can sit down and say, let's look at your goals. She's feeling this, he's feeling that. How do we get both of you to the same level so we can get going to reach whatever those goals are? And again, there you are. You're asking for help. You're just asking for help in a different place. But for sure, do not sit there for decades and not say anything and have that all like burning inside of you. And then it just eats you alive. That's it.
Thanks so much, Whitney, Mom, for your vulnerability and coming on and sharing this. And obviously, everyone knows my stance on brand story. It's how we heal the world. So I hope that this video really served all of you watching. And please let us know in the comments. It really is important for us to have feedback to know if you're loving the content. So thanks for tuning in.
And we have some more episodes coming up if you wanted to share that information. We've got some fabulous ladies who are going to be speaking. So the Wallet to Wealth events that we were having at the Sandman Hotel, we're gonna do them like this, because I think it's really important that we just keep talking. And Brittany, you have a great talk that I listened to on your podcast the other day on the intergenerational traumas that we have, and I think that would be a fabulous one that we talk about next. And I think that we're going to have a lot of spin-off conversations. And instead of me listing all the names, we'll type them in, because there's a lot of great ladies that that I've been talking to that I'm really excited to bring. And it's all going to be about helping raising each other up with the skills and the tools that we have.
Yay, woohoo. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for
Okay.
being here. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Okay. We'll see ya.